Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this yet another edition of Women Everyday series. And for those who are joining us for the first time, Women Everyday series is She Works Hero Initiative for meaningful conversations and around leadership, talent, technology, workplace transformation, and definitely the future of work. So, over the years, we have brought together leaders who are not only shaping industries but also influencing how organizations think about people, growth, and innovation. And definitely today, we are focusing on a topic that sits at the intersection of technology and talent. ServiceNow has evolved from being an IT service management platform to a strategic enterprise platform, powering employee experiences, customer workflows, governance, risk management, operations, and digital transformation initiatives. Yet, while organizations continue to invest heavily in ServiceNow, many are running into the same challenge. Not technology, not budgets, it's the talent. The demand for ServiceNow skills is growing rapidly. Roles are evolving faster than job descriptions and can keep up. And hiring managers are finding themselves in a fiercely competitive talent market. So today's discussion, it's about understanding what enterprises are getting right and where they are struggling and what future-ready ServiceNow talent actually looks like. So, and to help us unpack and unravel this, we have an exceptional panel today with us. So let me start with Mr. Viraj. Mr. Viraj Avati is the managing partner and the global head of ServiceNow delivery at T Systems International. He is an author, speaker, a technology leader who has led large-scale digital transformation programs across more than 15 countries and over 50 global clients. So his work spans workflow automation, AI, organizations builds and enterprise transformation and helping organizations build scalable digital ecosystems. So he literally wrote a book on the subject, being the author of Workflow Automation with ServiceNow. So Viraj, it's definitely, we are so lucky to have you here. We are delighted to have you today with us at Women Everyday series. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you, Priya. It's my pleasure. Looking forward.
Yes, and the next up we have Miss Surabhi Bansal, coach and brings extensive experience across consulting, solution architecture, product management, and global program leadership. She has been instrumental in helping enterprises unlock business value through ServiceNow and AI building high-performing teams across global markets. Surabhi, wonderful. Well, it's so wonderful to have you with us. So yes, bringing in the diversity in Surabhi, we are so happy and so proud to welcome you to this Women Everyday series. Our next panelist, Mr. Jitin Hirani. Jitin is director at Deloitte India and a highly experienced ServiceNow platform architect with nearly 2 decades of experience in enterprise technology and transformation. He has led complex ServiceNow programs across industries and has worked extensively on platform strategy, governance, architecture, delivery excellence, and capability building. So, Mr. Jitin, it's so happy to have you. Welcome to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Yes,
for
and
having me. Yeah.
thank you very much. I think Surabhi, we lost you. Yes, we are here. And yes, finally, last but not least, we have Vidya Ramamurthy joining us from Chennai. Vidya is Senior Director and ServiceNow Platform Lead at AstraZeneca with over 20 years of experience in technology and digital transformation. She leads enterprise scale platforms, strategy, governance, operations, and innovative initiatives globally. She has successfully driven large scale platform transformations and established centers of excellence that connect technology outcomes directly to business value. So, Vidya, we are thrilled to have your perspective being shared today with us. And thank you all for joining us. Let's definitely dive into the topic, because this topic is one that almost every enterprise leader, hiring manager, and ServiceNow practitioner is grappling with today. So I would first try to, I guess the team Shework definitely deserves a pat on the back for bringing such an apt panelist who are going to serve us now with the masterclass of ServiceNow. So welcome all of you to this wonderful session this morning. And yes, let me start the discussion today with the first question. So, Mr. Viraj, I would like to go with the first question with you. So, I would like to start with you where whenever we talk about ServiceNow, talent shortages, the discussion often stays at a very high level. But from your vantage point, working across multiple global markets, you're seeing the demand firsthand. So I would love to understand where the real gaps are emerging. So for the audience, I'll repeat the question: what are the biggest skill gaps you're seeing in the now talent globally right now?
Priya, that's an interesting question and right at the core of the problem. Everybody wants talent, but nobody is telling what type of talent and how to get there. I think when we talk about the skill gaps in ServiceNow ecosystem, we often jump straight to the certifications, the modules, the technical expertise. That's the obvious answer. I think I don't think the problem is lying there. We need to scratch the surface. If you kind of look at the ServiceNow growth and the trajectory by which it is growing over the last decade, it has been phenomenal. The platform continues to expand left, right, and center. But while the product and licensing of the platform has grown rapidly, the ecosystem that supports the whole ecosystem that has not kept the pace. And one of the biggest aspect of that ecosystem is the talent. And in fact, I would not even call it the talent shortage. In many cases, we don't even have talent shortage. We have a shortage of people who bridge the technology business and the outcomes that are needed out of ServiceNow and the platform such capable. I would like to kind of break this into multiple layers. Yeah, the first layer is the technical layer, and I think that's the easiest one. It is easy because it is measurable. We all say that I have so many certified people. I have ITSM, I have HR, I have ITOM, and you see that, you measure that. And then there are so many new upcoming modules that are coming in with every release of the service now. But the real challenge lies somewhere else. That's the second layer of this answer. We often find professionals who are really good with ServiceNow. They can code, they can do amazing stuff. We call them our rock stars. They are the technical guys, the go-to guys. But necessarily they do not understand the domain knowledge behind what they are doing. Right. So for example, there is a module within ServiceNow called GRC, right? And this is about governance, this is about policies, this is about so many more things that go much beyond ServiceNow. And we may have a person certified on GRC module, or for that matter OT, the operational technology. We may have people certified on that, but do they understand the real business? Now OT is all about manufacturing. OT is all about being in the factory where the cars are manufactured, for example, where the heavy machinery is manufactured. Has a developer really been to the factory? Do they understand what those guys from the business and the factory side are talking about? No. And that's where the real gap is. In fact, it's like two different worlds trying to solve a single problem here. And then, we are trying to pull the world apart. And ServiceNow is going through this patch where people are trying to solve the same problem, but with different mindsets and different knowledges. And the third layer, if you really ask me, is the critical layer, the most critical one, which I call the systems thinking layer, right? So many professionals understand their piece of the puzzle. I know what I do, I am good at it, and that's my world. They know their module, they're certified, and as I said, they're the rock stars. And I think until now, that was good enough. Historically, last 10, 15 years, the way ServiceNow has grown, people were really, driving their own strengths and still getting the job done. But now, guys, we are talking about AI. And in most of the cases, AI is actually doing the things that a developer used to do for last 10 years. And then where do we stand, right? So we need to think that you are just a piece of the puzzle. Unless you understand the bigger picture, unless you see the bigger picture with the puzzle pieces put together, you are really not adding the value, right? So basically, the real differentiator is understanding how all the pieces fit together. And very few people step back and look at the entire value chain end to end, right? And that's, I think, becoming a real problem in today's world. So the future, I think, will belong to the professionals who can connect these dots, right? So if you really ask me now, coming to your question, my answer is not a specific certification or a specific technology within ServiceNow ecosystem. I think it's the ability to connect platform knowledge to the business context and having that end-to-end thinking. And even a 2-year-old experience can actually do that, right? So if you really ask me, the 3 key takeaways: learn the business behind the workflow, not just the workflow. Understand the outcome of what you are doing, even if that means that you are putting just a single field or a button on your form. What is exactly happening once the end user pushes that button? And stay curious and go beyond your specialization, right? So, and in this case, I'm not talking about specialization within ServiceNow. I'm talking about beyond IT. Look at how your implemented ServiceNow is being used by your end user. But just to end this, depth really gets you hired. Breadth is what makes you indispensable. I think that's what I would say.
Great, great. Spoke like a true leader. That's an amazing perspective when you said going above and beyond your comfort zone and seeing what is beyond service now. That's like a true leader. So, what stands out is that the challenge isn't simply about finding the people, probably it's about finding the right mix of platform expertise and business understanding and execution capability, also, like how you mentioned
Yes.
aptly. So, which
Yes.
definitely naturally brings me to the hiring side of this entire equation. So, Mr. Jitin, I'm coming to you there. So, organizations often say that they can't find service now talent, but when you dig deeper, the reasons are very dramatically. Sometimes it's supplies, sometimes it's the compensation, and sometimes organizations themselves aren't clear about what they're hiring for. So I want to reiterate the question here. So when enterprises struggle to hire for service now, is it a supply problem, a pay problem, or a role clarity problem?
Okay. So I don't think it's any of those. Basically, the enterprise has to think beyond the obvious, as Viraj also mentioned. The people and also the enterprise has to think beyond the obvious. In my experience, what I've seen is people are very focused on the current set of issue. Why do we need an HR person, certified person, or an ITSM certified person, or for example, a GRC certified person? It's not that obvious. So from an enterprise perspective, you have to always think about the long-term strategy of the platform. What are you trying to you have invested so much into the ServiceNow platform, and how do you want to get an ROI out of the platform? So if you are, there are two strategies always. If you're always thinking that it's a short-term strategy of only getting the right people, getting them paid and getting away with the work, or let's say getting attention to the business, that will not work in the long run on a sustainability side. You have to always think two ways into this. One is the short-term strategy and the long-term strategy of the game. The short-term could be you need an administrator or IT guy or an HR guy, but in the long term, you need a hub in your organization, which basically gives you an edge over putting together a center for excellence, basically. So you need a lot of core people who think about the platform, their long-term running, what is the roadmap of your platform, and align your hiring strategy according to that roadmap, rather than only thinking you need 2 people on this and 4 people on that, right? So that is one. So it's not a role clarity situation or a pay lag. These are all catalysts, basically. These act as a catalyst to the underlying problem that nobody is thinking about the roadmap of the overall platform for the enterprise. So you need a good center for excellence. Basically, that is so there are two models here. One is the hub spoke model. So you need a hub basically who can understand what is the roadmap, what is the platform wants to do, what are the modules or the strategies that you want to build over time in the roadmap. ServiceNow is not a 1 year game or a 6 month game or a 2 year platform. It's a multi-year journey that you have to cater to. So in the hub spoke model, you basically create a hub who is the center for excellence. You have certain platform architects, you have certain delivery people who can understand the business, who work with the business, liaise with them, see what are the things they are thinking about their strategy on the business. And then you have spokes wherein you need specific people, specific skills on that side, and then you hire accordingly. And obviously, so there is an HR or the talent acquisition angle that also comes here. So we have to make them understand as well that from a talent acquisition angle, this is the overall long-term strategy. You need these kind of people in the long run. And the third piece to this puzzle is you have to train people, upskill people in your organization. Again, it's a difficult thing to do, but you have to constantly motivate and endorse that upskilling inside the organization so that the good people in your organization get into the right mindset and get into the right skills so that you can govern the overall hiring strategy. That is my two cents on this.
Great. Very interesting. So, because hiring challenges are often the symptoms of larger organization issues, like how you mentioned. So, and probably that leads to another important question as to what good talent actually looks like. So, Survi, probably I'll come to you for this. Certifications have definitely become a major benchmark in the ServiceNow ecosystem right now, but we all know certifications alone don't guarantee success. So, from your experience building and leading ServiceNow teams globally, so but to put it in a better way, beyond certifications, what does a truly hire ready ServiceNow professional look like to you? Surabhi, can you hear us? I think Surbi is facing quite a technical glitch over there. We'll get back to Surbi. So, meanwhile, I would love to get perceptions of the same, probably from the other leaders. Vidya, would you like to take it up?
Yeah, your voice was breaking a bit, Priya. Can you repeat your question?
So my question was, beyond certifications, what does a truly hire ready service professional look like?
A truly hire ready service professional, in my opinion, I would allude to what Viraj was saying earlier as well, right? It's not about just knowing the platform. It is also about understanding the business. How was the value add coming from the platform to the business? It's not just setting up the right workflows, or it's not setting up automation or keeping your platform AI ready. What is the outcome that the business is deriving from the ServiceNow platform is what I would say is very important for a ServiceNow ready professional, be it whatever domain. It could be manufacturing, it could be logistics, it could be finance, but it's very important for a ServiceNow platform engineer or a product architect or a developer to understand the business and then fit your platform to serve the business needs. That's what I would say is very important.
Great,
but I'm eager to hear the words from others as well on this.
Yes, so fortunately we have Surabhi here. Surabhi, can you hear us if you're here? It's extremely unfortunate that we cannot have Surabhi there, but thank you, Vidya. That was a great perspective from your side. So yes, because ultimately organizations aren't hiring the certificates. Of course, they are hiring problem solvers, like how the hiring people usually say. So let's now shift from individual to enterprise capability building. So Vidya, I'm going to come back to you again for the same. You have led large-scale ServiceNow transformation initiatives and also have established centers of excellence. So many organizations, they talk about COEs, but the outcomes vary significantly. So I would love your perspective here. So running a center of excellence, are enterprises actually using it to grow ServiceNow talent, or is C4E just a governance layer with no real skill building happening there?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Priya. And I've seen that journey as well. But let me answer that in three parts. One is what I see today, what good looks like, and how do you shift from governance to growth. So, in my experience, most organizations say they have a ServiceNow C4E, but when you look closely, they are actually running a change approval committee, but with very little deliberate talent building. But I've also seen the opposite of that, where a small, focused C4E treats talent as its core component. Now, these are the teams that grow architects, developers, product owners faster than the market, and the governance then. What happens to the governance is that it becomes almost a side effect of that capability. So this sets up the idea that, a C4E can either be a choice in terms of, it being a control layer or a talent engine. So Priya, to answer your question, right? Yes, some enterprises absolutely use C4E to grow ServiceNow talent and careers, but many are still stuck in an old model where C4E becomes a primary gatekeeper and not a capability builder. But having said that, what does a modern talent focused C4E does, right? So you can structure it in two parts. One is academy. So the C4E runs an internal ServiceNow academy, onboarding career paths for new joiners, having certification journeys, conducting brown bag sessions, sandbox challenges, and by virtue of that, code reviews become more of a learning opportunity and just not audits, right? So when you do this, the C4E gets positioned as a talent brand. It becomes the place where the best engineers want to work. They have visible career paths where you can progress from being a developer to a technical lead to an architect, and then ultimately the platform owner. You have a space to experiment with the latest stuff like Gen AI, Now Assist. You have opportunities to speak, publish, and represent organizations in the ServiceNow community. So please remember, governance documents don't retain people. Growth opportunities do retain people. So let me, share probably 2 to 3 practical ideas as takeaways for the audience who have tuned in as well. So if you're running a C4E today, I would suggest please do add 2 key metrics to it. One is how many people have moved up at least one skill level this year. Second, how many people have you developed internally versus hired externally? Now, that alone will change your conversations. Second, turn your design reviews into learning sessions, right? So 10 minutes of why we choose this is a free training for the whole team. Finally, give your C4E a budget line for capability building, for labs, for certifications, community events. If there's no talent budget, you really don't have a C4E. You have just a change board with the logo. So that's why I say a C4E is no longer just a governance structure. It's what I call a capability factory. Its success should be measured not only in terms of change volumes and platform stability, but also how many engineers, architects, and product owners it creates every year. So think about it, right? 5 years from now, what will matter more? That every form in ServiceNow followed a particular naming standard, or that you built a bench of people who can safely shift value at speed?
Great, great. So yes, that was a very important distinction just you mentioned. So because governance is necessary, but capability building is what untimely careers long time creates long time success. So yes, going innovation and introspective innovation, like how you mentioned, changing the entire dimension, changing the entire perspective can definitely build a better environment, is like how you mentioned. That was a very great thought. So let's continue on that thread. So unfortunately, Surbhi, we lost her again. I think our audience are going to be definitely very much disappointed that we didn't get one leader's amazing perspective. But moving on, let's hope that Surbhi joins us very soon. Mr. Viraj, I want to come back to you again. So many enterprises start by building ServiceNow capability internally. So some succeed and definitely others struggle and succumb. So at some point, the question becomes whether to build, buy, or partner. So let me bring you back to the conversation. I'll repeat the question. When enterprises build ServiceNow capability in house, where does it typically break down, and when does bringing in a partner actually makes more sense?
I think let me go back to two very beautiful thoughts that Jitin and Vidya just spoke about. It is what Jitin said about a multi-year journey, right? And it is what Vidya spoke about, value at speed. So it's not about a single failure point here. I think this question is often framed as a choice between capability internally to be built or bringing in a partner externally. But in my experience working with ServiceNow ecosystem for a very long time now, most mature organizations internally, or the ones that we work with externally as well, they don't necessarily see this as an either or kind of a decision. In fact, many of the large ServiceNow customers successfully do both. Yeah, and I think there lies the key. So one observation that I have made over the years is that organizations often start by thinking about building a ServiceNow team, maybe. And as their platform business or journey matures, they realize that actually building a ServiceNow capability and not just, it's just not a team, right? And if you really look at the difference between a team and a capability, a team is a group of people, but a capability is a group of people driven by some governance, some best practices, architecture, business engagement, operating models, change management, knowledge management, and maybe even continuous improvement, right? So there are multiple factors to which you need to really look at which you really need to look at, because it is not about just building a team and letting them build a platform for you. And I'm sure some of my fellow panelists who have led internal large ServiceNow or external large ServiceNow organizations will also recognize what I mean. The platform becomes strategic. As the platform becomes strategic, the conversation really moves beyond staffing. And we have discussed staffing a few minutes ago. I think as I also mentioned, the challenges are typically not technical, and the break points are not really technical. Uh, the organizations do build strong teams, but the bigger challenge is actually building something that continues to create value year after year after year. Now, one area is business ownership. Most of us look towards ServiceNow as an IT platform, but the value is realized across the business, right? So when ServiceNow is implemented, everybody benefits out of it. And the platform is growing every day, so that value continues to grow. The organizations see that the greatest outcomes are the ones where business stakeholders, process owners, and technology teams collectively own this transformation, right? And because transforming workflows is very different from deploying software, what I was saying was because it is the transformation itself is very different than just deploying software. Another area is sustainability, and in this case, sustainability is is not the sustainability of an organization or the other initiatives that we call as sustenance or sustainability initiatives. This is the sustainability of the team. Look, guys, we are talking about an industry that is competing for a relatively smaller and limited pool of experienced talent, especially professionals who bring knowledge with them and also bridge technology to the business and understand the outcomes. Now, many organizations do invest heavily in attracting great people, but can they sustain those people, right? Over time, the focus really shifts from acquiring talent to actually building organizational capability, as I spoke. And because people will change roles, will move into different positions, or just leave the organization, it then becomes a very big question on how to continue and still sustain the team that you have built or the capability that you have built. And then there is a question of experience. Internal teams, if you have them, they develop really deep understanding of the business that you run. And that's incredibly valuable. What external partners, now I'll come to the external partners, right? What external partners really bring is the exposure to multiple industries, multiple transformations, and multiple operating models. So for me, it is less of adding capacity or capability when you bring external partners. It is about adding experience, and the biggest factor is reducing risk. Every organization goes through its ServiceNow journey once or twice, but the good partners that you have around you have gone through these journeys multiple times. They have seen what a successful project looks like. They have seen what and how to govern big transformations. They have seen operating models, and they know where the struggle is, and they know which decisions are good and which are not so good. The experience in this case is about how you can create accelerated journey while reducing the risks that come naturally with the transformation, right? So in fact, many of our customers that we work with, I have also seen the BOT model, right? The build, operate, and transfer, where we kind of implement the stuff for them, the platform, the way they want it. And in the meanwhile, also their own teams shadow us. And at an appropriate time, we hand over the overall system that we have built and the ecosystem that we have built to their internal team, and then act as their guidance from time to time, right? So it is I think fundamentally not internal versus external kind of a decision. It is about how both of these are complementing each other, and that is where the key lies.
Great, great. It's like how you aptly mentioned, it's not just about hiring the skills or people with proper expertise, but also retention also goes hand in hand, where we nurture this talent and ensure that there won't be a brain drain happening later, where they just unannounced leave the company with where the company has to incur the heavy loss. That's an excellent point there. So yes, so thank you very much. So that balance between that internal capability and external expertise, like how you just mentioned, is becoming increasingly important, which definitely brings us to the another talent decision enterprises that we are wrestling with right now. So Mr. Jitin, I have to come back to you again there. ServiceNow today, it touches almost every business function, so be it IT, HR, finance, legal, customer operations. So enterprises are having to rethink who they hire right now. So to reiterate that question, ServiceNow spans IT, HR, finance, and legal. So should enterprises be hiring deep platform specialists or business domain people who know the platform? So where are most things getting wrong there?
Okay. Thanks, Priya. So it's an interesting question and very valid in the today's age, basically. So ServiceNow, as Viraj and also Vidya mentioned, that it has grown to a large extent. The platform was once only IT focused platform. Now it has grown to multifold, to HR, finance, GRC, even OT and other platform modules that we have been seeing. And enterprises are finding it very, very difficult to whether to get a specialist in that area or to have a platform specialist on a generic level. So I think we have to find a balance between that. And as my fellow panelists also alluded, one is we have to think about the business more, how we are creating value out of our investment. We can also do a couple of frameworks that we can follow, and we follow as a partner to our companies and to the clients that we do, is build a T-shaped talent. What a T-shaped talent means: you are good in a specific business domain. However, you definitely have a good broad enough strategy and understanding on the ServiceNow platform capability. So that's a T shape. So you may be good at, let's say, HR or legal service delivery or finance, but then you're also having a good understanding of the ServiceNow platform in general, how it works. And also we have to think platform in a engagement layer. So ServiceNow is always have been an engagement layer rather than only a platform or a ticketing solution for that. So as an engagement layer, it cuts across different business functions. So a twofold strategy could be having a T-shaped framework to hire, and also the second is to partner with external agencies, external partners who have seen this journey, who have seen how the implementations go. They know what are the benchmarks are there in the industry. They have seen this journey, multi-year journeys with other companies, and then get the talent associated from there, so that you have a good combination of a success that will bring you success in the overall implementation journey, and also with the overall knowledge management that these two entities will do for you, it will create a longer impact. Yeah.
Great. That's definitely extremely fascinating point what you mentioned, because platforms right now are becoming business platforms rather than technology platforms. That's so true. So, and definitely talent strategies need to evolve accordingly. So on that note, I would like to mention that we have got some amazing comments from our viewers on LinkedIn, and we have got lots of questions already, which we'll be taking up in in quite some time. Excuse me. And yes, unfortunately, we lost Surabhi over there. We had a few more questions to Surabhi. So, but nevertheless, I hope that she'll get back to us very soon. Vidya, if I can come to you again, if we fast forward to 2026 and look at how it's emerging right now, look at the organizations that are getting ServiceNow right. What would they look like in a futuristic perspective? If you just look at it, what capabilities would they have built? So what would it differentiate them? So I'll repeat the question just for our audience's understanding. So what does enterprise ready ServiceNow capability look like in 2026, and how far are most organizations from actually getting there?
Thanks, Priya, for that question. I think it's a much talked about topic now as well. So I would define enterprise ready ServiceNow capability in 2026 very simply. It's a no-brainer. It's when your platform can safely scale AI-driven workflows across the enterprise because your data, governance, operating model, and the talent is mature enough to support it. So enterprise ready is not about how many modules you own or how many dashboards you have. It is more about whether you can confidently let the platform automate decision, trigger actions, and orchestrate work across IT, HR, finance, security without holding your breath every time you push a change. So what does good look like, right, in 2026? So I will break this into 5 dimensions. First, data and CMDB. So clean, trusted data, CMDB and foundational data that's good enough for AI and automation to act on, not just report on, right? The second point is architecture and governance. A clear platform architecture with patterns for integrations, for extensibility, security, and a governance model that is lightweight but effective so that it avoids snowflake solutions in every team. 3, operating model. A true product based operating model where you have named product owners, a roadmap, You have a release cadence and a C4E that very importantly acts more as an enabler and not as a bottleneck. Four, which we have discussed earlier as well, talent and skills. So you need to have a multidisciplinary team where you have architects, developers, process owners, AI experts, data experts who understand both ServiceNow and the business domains they serve. That is very, very important. Five, business outcomes and AI readiness. So documented business outcomes and KPIs per product, and a clear view of where Gen AI or Now Assist or virtual agents and automations can safely be used because the prerequisites are in place. So enterprise ready to me means that ServiceNow is part of your digital operating system. But to answer, the other question that you asked, how far are most organizations in this journey, right? So most organizations, in my view, are somewhere in the middle of that journey. A small minority are quite close. They've invested in data foundations. They have a working C4E, and they're now piloting real AI use cases on top of a reasonably healthy platform. The majority, I would say, are what I would call in the plateau stage, where multiple modules are live, lots of value, but in pockets, but also a lot of technical debt, customizations, and fragmented ownership that make every new initiative harder than it should be. And then there is a tail of organization, believe it or not, still treating ServiceNow as a ticketing tool, and they are nowhere near the AI ready yet. But they also have the largest opportunity because they can leapfrog if they get the foundations right now. Okay. But having said all this, right, what are the common gaps that I'm seeing is something I would like to share as well, which is blocking the journey to become enterprise ready. First is data quality and ownership. Second is over customizations. Third is the operating model. Fourth, talent and time. Very, very important, because I have seen small teams are expected to run operations, they're expected to deliver projects, they're expected to learn new releases and now do AI on top of everything else, right? That's not a recipe for enterprise ready capability at all. But the good news is, becoming enterprise ready isn't about one huge transformation program. It's about sequencing and focus. So if I have to suggest 3 concrete moves to the audience here, right, I would say pick 1 or 2 critical value streams. For example, incident to resolution or your joiner, mover, lever process, and make those truly world-class on ServiceNow end-to-end. Second, invest intentionally in the C4E and talent. Build the team that can say no to bad patterns and yes to scalable ones. And then treat AI as a reward for good foundations and not as a shortcut, right? So in 2026, enterprise ready ServiceNow isn't about who has the fanciest demos. It's about who has done the quiet, unglamorous work to make automation and AI, I call it as R2S, which is safe, reliable, and repeatable across the organization.
Great. So in layman terms, like how we Indian call sasta and tikau. So yes, it's definitely going to be an amalgamation of all these elements fit perfectly, and that's when they come together to form a proper, effective kind of a business. So that's where the show will go on. The show must go on. So having said so, we are so happy that our audience is enjoying this incredibly insightful session, and we have received some real fantastic questions from the audience, which tells me that this topic is definitely resonating with so many leaders and the practitioners also. So let's bring in some amazing questions over there. So yes, Sakshi Patil is asking, like, how do enterprises compete for talent in an increasingly competitive ServiceNow ecosystem? That's an amazing question, Sakshi. So I would request Mr. Jitin to take this up, and I would love to have perceptions from all the leaders as well, because this is definitely one interesting question after the prelude of this interesting perspectives, whatever we had till now in the session. So Mr. Jitin, would you like to take this up first?
Sure. So I don't think there is a competition for talent. Obviously, everybody has a fair share. There are a lot of good people available out there in the industry. You have to, it's about relationship. I would say it's not about competition, it's about relationship. If you have been into the industry for a longer duration of time, you know, you have a good relation with your people, the lives that you have touched across your journey in different enterprises. Again, it's a simple ask for help. It's as simple as that. If you ask for help to a certain individual, you have a good relationship. I don't think there is a competition there. Obviously, the market is always will always be brutal in taking all these initiatives. But obviously, we have to think from over the time. If we build good relationships with the talent and you have a good brand as an individual, you are integral to your work. Obviously, people will want to work with you as an enterprise and continue from there.
Great, great. Mr. Viraj, would you like to add some points to
Yeah,
this?
yeah. So I would just extend on what Jitin said. I think we are in an era where everybody knows everyone. Yeah, and we are all connected. It's a small ecosystem when you say ServiceNow. There are communities, there is LinkedIn, there are so many other avenues where people actually meet and see each other. And it just does not stop there. People know what project is running in which organization and how many people are working for which customer. Yeah, so if you we have had interviews where people are directly asking, will I be tagged to that customer or that project, right? So it is that crystal clear, and it's a small world. So people are making choices rather than we asking them to join us, right? So for us, the leaders, it is more about how we are portraying our work to the talent that is available to actually attract the best one in the market. I think that's what I would say.
Great, great, great. Vidya, would you like to answer this question in your own way?
Sure. For me, the key focus, right, in this talent market is developing your own internal talent versus external hire. Of course, it's very important to get a fresh perspective into the team. It's very important to have that industry knowledge as well. But I focus a lot on ensuring that my own team is upskilled and they get the opportunities first before I look at the opportunities that are available in the market. So for me, internal talent takes topmost priority.
Great, great. So, Vidya, we would like to retain you right there with that thought, and of course, come back to this question, which says, are companies finding it harder to hire experienced ServiceNow professionals or train fresh talent? Thank you, Ms. Yogita, for this question. So, yes, Vidya, would you like to please share your perspectives on this?
Okay, so the question is, are companies finding it hard to train the new joiners or to retain experienced professionals? Is that right?
Experienced ServiceNow. Yes, yes.
Okay.
No, I think it's the other way around. Our company is finding it hard to hire those people who have this expertise in service now, the professionals, or is it difficult to hire those some of the freshers and train them with service now, if I'm not wrong?
Yeah, in my own experience, right, I would say that it is not difficult to hire people with no experience in service now and train them. We have done that successfully, and it is very, very rewarding. You need to take a chance sometimes, guys. You need to risk it out over there sometimes, right? So when I took over service now, I did not have knowledge on the platform. It is about the ability to learn. It's about the ability to adapt and learn. You need to have that constant hunger. For me, it is very important to have the people with the right attitude. For me, attitude is 60% of everything. Knowledge can be acquired, but attitude cannot be taught. It is something which is built in, right? So I would, at any point in time, at any given day, I would risk taking a person who is not a ServiceNow certified candidate, train them, and then give them the right career path. It's very rewarding, trust me.
Great, great. That's like a true leader spoken. So yes, definitely, your success stops when learning stops. On that note, Mr. Viraj, I would love to answer. I would love you to take this question up. So we have so many questions. I want the perspectives of all the leaders for all these questions. So, what strategies have worked best in retaining top ServiceNow talent? Thank you, Ms. Shilpa, for this question. Yes, Mr. Viraj.
I think the strategies that have worked for me in retaining and creating ServiceNow talent is firstly being transparent. Yeah, it's about telling the team what's really happening and how their path in the organization actually is laid out, right? So everybody wants to know what's coming up next for them. Everybody wants to know how they are going to learn and grow, and that's a key message that I always keep on giving. It's a transparency from the leadership towards the team. The second aspect is, and a very important one, is during the interviews and during those first business connects that we conduct with the people. I think that's where you also need to extend the same strategy and tell them that they will be tagged to this or that, and the expectations from you is going to be this. What really happens is, because of this openness, you really get their mind share, and you get to also understand their perspective and give them an option to pick and choose as well. And now they have made an informed decision of joining your journey, right? And yeah, obviously, once they are in, or once they are with you, then there are so many other things that can keep them occupied and really on the journey with you. But I think most of us are doing that. For me, the key is being open and transparent. That has worked.
Great, great. Yes, transparency definitely builds a better culture and gives a better transparency itself. I think is a very good reward for all the employees who want to achieve and thrive. Thank you, Mr. Viraj, for the perspective. And next question, I would love Mr. Jitin to take it up. It's a question from Ms. Prachi Daulia. How can freshers break into ServiceNow ecosystem when most roles require experience? Thank you, Prachi. That's an amazing question.
Thanks. So I think this is a very valid and interesting thought, and I mean, the fellow panelists also will agree. Getting freshers into the ServiceNow ecosystem is a lot easy than getting into other ecosystems, for example, Java or AWS or SAP or other ecosystems that we have in the world. ServiceNow ecosystem is very, very friendly. The community is really, really good. I mean, I'll take an example of my back in my experience in the earlier days when I started my journey in 2014-15. There was no ServiceNow University. There was no portal. There was no learning areas. There was no YouTube to help you get the understanding of any module, for example, or how to prepare for a certification, or how does that functionality work? Can we troubleshoot? All those areas were very, very new. And so we used to take a lot of help from fellow community members. We used to drive to those people, extract photocopies in that day for the learning content that we used to get from there. But now, in the era of AI, and also ServiceNow University being a good ecosystem to offer those learnings for free. I think most of it is also for free in the university. So it is very easy to learn and pick up the ecosystem. And now, because the ecosystem and the community is grown so large and people are connected via LinkedIn and via other channels, they can reach out to any expert to get a good understanding of any of the module. So it's very easy. The only thing, and I would allude to Vidya, what she said is on attitude. So you have to have the right attitude to pick up, to be very, very right into you want to go into the ecosystem. You should have that hunger that you want to excel in your ServiceNow journey and then go from there.
Great, great. Thank you very much.
Priya,
So,
Priya,
this,
if I could just
yes,
extend
please.
on what Jitin is saying, I think
Definitely, definitely.
we fortunately for today's generation, or the freshers that are out there today, they belong to this ecosystem that Jitin mentioned, and it is much easier for them to showcase their work. Yeah, so they can not just learn, but also be a part of the communities, and do wonderful things for people to take note that there is someone out there doing something good. And I think that speaks much more than your CV and your profile for a fresher. If there is an app, or if there are 10 answers that you have answered on the community, I think people will recognize that you are someone that they want. So that's a
Great,
good
great.
way in.
Yep.
Yeah.
That talking about taking notes, I think our audiences are taking fine notes of all the perspectives shared by all the panelists here, because they're coming up with questions. This is the question for Viraj, this is the question for Vidya. So I would request all the audiences to, and while taking the liberty from all the panelists, that they can connect with them and through LinkedIn. So I would request all the audiences to redirect these questions directly to the leaders, because we are coming at the end of this session. So one last questions. I want to have this one-line answer from all the leaders here. What is this biggest hiring challenge enterprises face while recruiting ServiceNow talent? Just one sentence, and we are done with it. We'll be wrapping up this amazing session. So let's start with Mr. Viraj.
I think one big challenge is maybe prioritizing which is the best one to hire.
Great. Great. That's yes, true. That's very true. Very basic, but very valid, and very important decision, I would say. Yes, Mr. Jitin.
Yeah, one thing is, I think compensation is also one of the biggest challenge. To pick up the best, also you have to pay the best in that way. So again, it is also a challenge from that perspective. Yeah.
True. Vidya, would you like to share your thoughts? So I think you're on mute. One second. I think you have to unmute yourself, Vidya. No, I think you have to unmute it yourself, because I'm not able to do it from here. So, yes, if you can unmute yourself, we are so eager to know your one-liner on this. Can you talk now? Can you hear us? No, I'm still not able to hear you. It's very unfortunate that we couldn't get your perception on this.
Is it better now?
Yes. I think you were. Yeah, this is better. Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sharing two things, Priya. Let me know if I'm audible now.
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay. So you asked for one word, but I'm sharing two things, right? What I see as a challenge. One is hiring the right person with the right attitude, right? Something that I spoke about earlier as well. So for me, attitude is a challenge, and the second is lack of business knowledge. That also cannot be diluted, right? So these are two main challenges that I see during any hiring that I do.
Thank you very much, and thanks audience for all these amazing and thoughtful questions. And I cannot be more than happy. And thank you, our dear panelists, for this candid and practical responses. I think what makes today's discussion valuable is that we have gone beyond usual conversations about talent shortages, and really explored what enterprises need to do differently. So as we wrap up, a few themes stand out: that the ServiceNow challenge is no longer about technology adoption; it is all about capability adoption. So organizations definitely need talent strategies that are deliberate as their technology strategies. The winners will not necessarily will be the companies, but the biggest platform investment. So I think they'll be the companies that build, attract, nurture, and retain the talent. So on behalf of She Work and Women Everyday series, I'd like to extend a sincere thanks to Mr. Viraj, Surabhi, Jitin, and Vidya. Unfortunately, Surabhi couldn't join us. So thanks all for sharing your expertise and experiences with us today. And thank you for our wonderful audience who were with us today, and thank you for spending such amazing time and contributing so many thoughtful questions. So we hope today's discussion has given you fresh perspectives on evolving ServiceNow talent landscape and practical ideas you can take back to your organization. So until next time, thank you for joining us and have a wonderful day ahead. So signing off, it's me, Priyas, telling stay curious, stay future ready, and yes, goodbye everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.